Hi, it's Vuk here, and today we're going to be reviewing dx0, which is a tool that I'm incredibly excited about. It is the first Salesforce-focused AI solution that's actually transforming how we do work as a team and how we bring value to our clients. And what I mean by transforming is that it's significantly reducing times on certain tasks. It's opening up the ability for those of us who are not developers to answer questions from our clients without having to escalate to our developers. And all of this in environments where there's significant technical debt, and especially where there's things that were built before we jumped in to help the client. And I'm going to show you 3 real examples of how we're using the tool. Before I do that, I want to leave a clear caveat that this is not an incentivized video from dx0. We are not being given the tool for free. We're paying customers. The only advantage that we've had is that Pablo approached us about 2 weeks before he went live with it and asked us if we'd like to be early adopters. As soon as we saw the demo, we wanted to. We're paying users, and very happily so, because you'll see some of the things that it's letting us do are things that would not be easily possible without it. So the 3 things that we're going to be looking at, the real scenarios that our team has actually used it for, is flow troubleshooting lots of times, and I'll show you 1 real example of how it actually helped us. Then 2 is user story validation, right? Because we're building in environments for our clients where there's many years of history of things that were built. When we develop that user story, we can actually use dx0 to say, hey, was something already built that facilitates this? Are we missing anything? Is there something we can already leverage for this? And I love that, right? This is something that I've never had a way to do without this. And the last thing is a more complex scenario where a client said, hey, we've got these 2 tools connected to Salesforce and we're going to dump them and we want to bring in a new tool. Can you tell us everything that is integrated with these 2 tools so we have clear design on how we will actually integrate those new tools? So let's jump into the first scenario and move through those scenarios throughout the video. Just quick reference. The main function of dx0, not the only function, but the main function, and the one we're going to be looking at today of dx0, is a normal chat bot. So what you're doing is you're able to authenticate various orgs within the system, and then you can choose a drop down of orgs that you want to ask specific questions about, and you just have a conversation with it. So let's look at scenario 1, evaluating a flow. In this example, the client said, hey, Vuk, we've got a flow that keeps launching, a screen that keeps popping up whenever a person goes on an opportunity, and they're not really able to bypass it because it's asking them to close the opportunity, but it's already closed, so they're stuck in a loop. It's not a flow that I built, so simply I went to the chat and I said, what launches the opportunity loss reason flow automatically when I open any opportunity, right? And it simply says, hey, this is being launched by the opportunity lightning page itself, not by background automation. It gives me some specific flexi page details. But what I love about dx0 is that it asks a follow-up question, right? It seeks a follow-up question. So it says, if you can share why you're asking, like, what is it that's going on? Like, help me give you some better details, right? So then I say, well, it's impossible to pass the screen when the opportunity is closed lost. How do I prevent that? And then the tool goes on and gives me some insights about what is it that I should do to ensure that I'm able to solve this problem. And instead of me solving the problem, instead of me having to guess and look through everywhere while my client's panicking and people are stuck on a Monday, this happened. This is of the examples I'm showing you. This is one that actually happened an hour ago, right? I took the results that it gave and I gave them to my client. I didn't have to charge my client a whole hour of working. Not that I'm charging by the hour. I never charge by the hour, or if I can avoid it, I don't. That's a separate topic. But realistically speaking, now I'm bringing more value to my client and I'm eliminating the need to have to dig deep and dive into a complex solution or complex part of the environment, which is no value for anybody, right? We're just solving the flow problem right away. Second example, user story validation, right? So I've got a client where we're working on clear user story, redefining all of the user stories, and one user story that came up that you see here as an account manager, I want to identify and confirm when a merchant intends to leave due to business structure change, such as closure stopping, blah, 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 right? So what I've done is I've said, hey, I have this user story. Does this environment already support this user story? And what the tool did was say, hey, there are definitely some building blocks that exist, right? It gave me some ideas of places to look and things to explore. Instead of just jumping in and building, it said, hey, here's some things you might want to consider where this solution already could be being facilitated and has been forgotten about, or the building blocks of something that you can use and leverage so you're not having to reinvent the wheel. And think about that. That's so powerful, right? I love that use case. And the third use case is the most complex, right? So we had a client that came and said, hey, we've got to perform a migration, that we have an integration with 2 different billing solutions, and we want to get rid of them and replace it with a new solution. Can you tell us where everything is built for those two integrations and what all those requirements are, so that we can have clear definition of what the new tool that's going to merge those two solutions is going to have to facilitate? And given that we never built those first two integrations that we've just come in since, it's a huge advantage to being able to dive in quickly, see what's there, define the actual requirements of what the new tool will be, and give guidance to our clients without having to spend hours and hours and hours exploring things and potentially missing something, right? Of course, it doesn't replace the need to actually go and look, and we did that work, right? But this tool gave us the ability to say, hey, where do we really need to put our eyes on, and to know that we're not missing any of the potential spaghetti code that's been left in there that's related to those two integrations. So those are three real examples of how we actually use the tool. I hope it gives you some idea of how you can use it. I didn't want to make this video crazy long, but for the price that we're paying, we're getting crazy value out of this tool, and I had to share it with the ecosystem. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.